In Bucha today, Ukrainians are burying their dead. Young soldiers killed while defending their homeland. Husbands and sons mourned by grieving families. A scene unfolding daily there. A year ago, Kyiv was coming under attack from Russian cruise missiles. Today, President Zelensky said Ukrainians will never give up, and the onus is on Russia to end the war.
Our right to live on our land needs to be respected. Leave our territory, withdraw, stop shelling us, stop killing civilians, stop destroying our infrastructure, energy sector, potable water, stop air strikes on the cities.
Reporter Sarah Larniuk is in the Ukrainian capital, and she joins us now live. So, Sarah, Ukrainians have experienced so much sacrifice and loss, of course, over the past year. What are they telling you about the changes that they've experienced in their lives over that time?
I've really spent the month here in Ukraine trying to understand exactly that. And I'm coming to you right now from the wall of fallen defenders outside of St. Michael's Cathedral. And that is probably the most evident loss, is just the loss of life, loss of soldiers and civilians. Here on this wall, they actually used to keep the images of lost soldiers up to date of the people lost between 2014 and 2022, when the war was a much smaller scale. But since the full-scale invasion in February of last year, they haven't been able to keep up. And so at the end of this wall, the last three segments of the wall are just people coming and putting up their family members' photos, people who have died. And today you can see memorials have come in, and people are paying tribute to those lives lost, civilians' lives lost, of course, as well. But the anniversary has also provided a chance for Ukrainians to take stock of the less evident losses that they've experienced. Because for the people who have survived, who have continued to have to live their lives here, they've lost time. And I think that that's been the number one thing I've heard about, is that they've lost the ability to plan for a future because they don't know what tomorrow holds. The other thing they've lost is just any sense of normalcy. One woman I spoke to, Svetlana Nahorna, on February 24th last year, she started a charity, and she lost her ability to do anything that didn't revolve around the war. Every moment of the day she's thinking about it. She goes to work, and then at the end of the day, she turns to the charity that is providing military support to frontline defenders of the country. And she doesn't have anything else in her life anymore. That is her morning, noon, and night. Speaking to Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines, they've lost the ability to even access their emotions because of the amount of pain and suffering and loss they are seeing there. If they actually allowed themselves to absorb what they're seeing, they wouldn't be able to continue on. So the scale of the loss in this country is enormous, and it will play out for generations. And I think everyone is really taking the day to take stock of that, because where I thought it might be a bit of a day of celebration because the Capitol is still standing, it's definitely been a much more solemn day.
And Sarah, of course, there's also been a lot of physical changes to the country, tangible physical changes. So talk to us a little bit about that, about what kind of challenges residents are dealing with on that front.
Absolutely. And it varies a lot. This is a big country. So in Lviv, you have rolling blackouts. You have 4 hours with power, 4 hours where maybe you have power, maybe you don't, and then 4 hours where you definitely don't. And so people are working with power outages, water outages, those kinds of things. But as you move closer to the front line, you have people who are living without a home anymore, and it's really been left up to municipal governments to try and serve their local residents, and their capacity to do that varies a great deal.
Look to the future now. What are the biggest political challenges it faces as the war drags on?
I think the concern here is that as this conflict drags on, as it becomes a protracted war, that people will lose interest, that the international community especially will lose interest and stop supporting Ukraine the way they have in the last year. From 2014 to 2022, there was a war going on in this country. It was just at a smaller scale, and it wasn't talked about, and at least not very much. And I think that is the primary concern. of Ukrainians here is that Western attention will wane and they will be forgotten in a war with Russia again.
Okay, Sarah, thank you for all of the updates. Reporter Sarah Larniuk for us in Kyiv.